Hello everybody. In this lesson we will study about properties of real numbers. By the end of this lesson you will be able to identify and use properties of real numbers. We already know what real numbers are. So let's get into the lesson to understand the properties of real numbers. Now the first property we will study is about commutative properties. Commutative properties of addition and multiplication. So what is the commutative property of addition? It says that changing the order of the addendums does not change the sum. For example, if we take A plus B will be same as B plus A, where A and B are any real numbers. Okay, the same thing in multiplication. A times B will be same as B times A. To give you examples over here, for addition, 18 plus 54, what will be the answer? It will be same as 54 plus 18. So you see, if we change the addendums over here, the value will still remain the same. The same thing applies to multiplication. 12 times half is how much? 6. It is same as half times 12, which is also 6. So this is called the commutative property of addition and multiplication, where if you change the order of the addendums for addition or factors for multiplication, the product will still remain the same. The value will still remain the same. Now let us look at the second property of real numbers, that is associative properties of addition and multiplication. What does the associative property of addition say? It says that changing the grouping of the addendums does not change the sum. For example, if we have the variables A, B and C, so A plus B plus C will be same as if I group A plus B plus C first. So if I group AB, add AB first and then add the sum to C, will be same as I add BC first and then add it to A. So whether I group A and B first or B and C first, it doesn't matter in addition. This is called the associative property of addition. Let's look at an example over here. For example, 23 plus 9. I add that first and then I add the sum to 4. It will be same as 23 plus I add 9 and 4 first and then add it to 23. So we can have a look at multiplication of associative property. What does it say? It says A times B. If I multiply them first and then multiply with C, is going to be same as A times I multiply B times C first and then multiply with A. Whether I group AB first in multiplication and then I multiply with C, is going to be same as whether I multiply BC first and then multiply with A. So changing the grouping of the factors does not change the product. That is the associative property of multiplication. For example, 7 times 9 times 10 is going to be the same as 7 times 9 times 10. You can verify that. So what is this property called? The grouping property. It is called the associative property of addition and multiplication. So let's look further into the properties. So what is the identity property of addition and multiplication? The identity property of addition says that the sum of any real number and 0 is the original number. For example, A where a happens to be a variable representing any real number. So, a plus 0 will always be equal to the same number a. Example of this can be 5 3/4, whatever the number is, plus 0 is going to be same as 5 3/4. So, what is this property of addition called? It is called the identity property, because when you add 0 to any real number, the answer is that same real number. Now, let us look at multiplication property, identity property of multiplication. It says that the product of any real number and 1 is the original number. So, the product of any real number and 1, let us take the real number represented by the variable a. So, a times 1 will always be same as a. Example can be 67, whatever the number is, times 1 will be 67. Great. So, let us look further now. What does the 0 property of multiplication state? It says that the product of any real number a and 0 is always 0. For example, a times 0 will be 0. We can take an example, 18 times 0 is 0. So, this is the 0 property of multiplication. Now, what is the multiplication property of -1? It says that the product of -1 and a is what? -a. Easy to guess. For example, -1 times a will be -a. Example, -1 times 9 is going to be equal to -9. Good. So, this is the multiplication property of -1. Based upon these and the understanding of these properties, let us work out few problems. Let us try this. Identifying properties. What property is illustrated by its statement? 42 times 0 is equal to 0. Can you guess what property is illustrated by this? When any number is multiplied with 0, you get 0. So, what property is this? This is the 0 property of multiplication. Good. Let us take another one. Y plus 2.5 plus 28 is equal to y plus 2.5 plus 28. So, we are grouping this first over here and then adding it to 28. The answer is the same as whether you group this first and then add. What property is this? Can you guess? This is the associative property of addition. Great. Let us take another one. 10x plus 0 is equal to 10x. A real number is added to 0 and you get the same number. So, what is the answer? Which property? It is the identity property of addition. So, now you understand how to figure out which property is being applied. Great going. Let us try this mental math. A movie ticket costs $7.75. A drink costs $2.40. Popcorn costs $1.25. What is the total cost for a ticket, a drink and popcorn? Use mental math. So, now we can easily add 7.75 plus 2.40. We can add that together with 1.25, or we can also group them. We can group the decimals first. Whichever decimal is easy for us to add, we can do this. So, I can group 2.40 plus 7.75 and 1.25. I can add that first. So, what will I get if I do that? This will give me 9, easy to calculate. And then I can add 2.40 to 9, which will give me $11.40. So you can easily use associative property to check whichever is easier to add first, and then take the sum and add it to the third item. Great. This is the use of properties in solving problems. It makes it easy. So let's move on to more problems. Let's try this. Simplify each expression. 5 times 3n. That's pretty easy. I can, for clarification's sake, I can write 5 times 3 times n. Which property am I using over here? I'm using associative property, and that's going to be equal to 5 times 3 is 15, so it's 15n. That's the answer. Now let's look at B. 4 plus 7b plus 8. I can again I can group 4 plus 8 together and then add it with 7b, and that's going to be 12 plus 7b. Which property did I use over here? I used again associative property. So let's move on and try another one. 6xy divided by y. Can I write the same thing as 6x over 1 times y over 1? It's the same thing. Y over y, sorry. Y over y. So I'm just rewriting the denominator, and over here y divided by y is 1, so we get 6x over 1 times 1, which is 6x. So which property am I using over here? Remember, a real number multiplied with 1 is always the same number. So which property? It's identity property of multiplication. Great. Let us see whether you got it or not. Okay, let's try. You can pause the video and try it on your own. Simplify each expression. 2.1 times 4.5x. Go ahead and do it, and then you can play the video. So I can use associative properties. Did you try it out? Okay, then watch my working. So 2.1 times 4.5, I can do that first and then multiply with x. So 2.1 times 4.5 is going to be 9.45. So it's 9.45 times x. That's your answer. Did you get that? Great. Now let's look at B. 6 plus 4h plus 3. So what did you do? So did you group 6 and 3 together? Something like this. 6 plus 3, I can group them together and then add it to 4h. So 6 plus 3 is going to be 9. 9 plus 4h. Which property did I use? I used associative property. Good. Let's try C. You have already tried it out. You need to check. So 8m over 12m n. So if I have to just split it to make things clear, 8 over 12 times m over m times 1 over n, just to make you understand. Now I can simplify this fraction, 8 over 12, which is the greatest number which can divide 8 and 12. In case if you don't know simplification of fractions, you can learn over here. Which is the greatest number that can divide 8 and 12? It's 4. So 4 how many times is 8? 2 times. 4 how many times is 12? 3 times. So 8 over 12 now will become 2 over 3. And m divided by m is 1 times 1 over n. That's the same thing over here, 1 over n. So now I can use 2 over 3 times 1 over n times 1 is going to be 2 over 3n. This is nothing but, since I'm getting, if I multiply this with 1, I'm getting the same thing. Which property? Identity property of multiplication. Good. Now let's try to understand what is deductive reasoning. If you have observed the previous problem, problem number 3, what did we do? We reasoned and we applied properties and we found an equivalent expression, right? So this is an example of deductive reasoning. So what do you do in deductive reasoning? Deductive reasoning is the process of reasoning logically from given facts to a conclusion. Certain facts are given to you, so you go on reasoning logically and then come to a conclusion. That is called deductive reasoning. Now, what do you mean by a counter example? A counter example is you give an example, one example, to show that the statement is wrong. So to show that the statement is not true, that is a counter example. Let's look at one example to understand this. Let's look at the example. Is the statement true or false? If it is false, give a counter example. For all real numbers a and b, a multiplied with b is same as, is equal to b plus a. Now, is this statement true? No, it is false. If it is false, come on, give an example. The example can be 5 times 3 is what? 15. Is it same as 3 plus 5? It's not. So now this is a counter example. So you are given an example to prove the statement wrong. So that is called a counter example. Now you understand what counter example is, what deductive reasoning is. And this completes the lesson on properties of real numbers. Thank you for watching this video, and subscribe to this channel and click the link button and share this video with one and all, and keep coming back to this video in case you have problems understanding the concepts. Thank you. Thank you for watching this video. My name is Askar Khan, and I run a math YouTube channel called Wisdom Outline. In case if you need math lessons privately in person or online, then you can contact me at my WhatsApp number over here. And I also have a self-help channel called Principles Outlined. So do check these channels out and do keep watching the videos. Thank you, and have a nice day.